Thanks a lot, Chelsea. So I'm here today to present Kate Headley, who's we're going to have the pleasure of listening to, who's going to talk to us about social media. So Kate Headley is a professional with a decade of experience in communications and marketing, and she's developed a lot of expertise in writing, strategic planning, media relations, and social media. Kate's honed her strategic communications and marketing skills working with a lot of major organizations such as United Way, the Canadian Nurses Association, and the Mental Health Commission of Canada. She's also worked with the federal government and some startup businesses as well. Since becoming a consultant in 2016, she's lent her expertise to the House of Commons, the Canadian Medical Association, Reconciliation Canada, Export Development Canada, and others. She's got a special interest in associations, nonprofit and healthcare, but is adeptly versatile to help with a multitude of other sectors. She's an avid reader of news and stories, and she's a committed collaborator who delivers high-quality communications, creative content, and expert advice that you can trust. Kate originally hails from Ottawa and holds a bachelor's degree in communications and political science from the University of Ottawa and a public relations diploma from Toronto's Humber College. She's a board of directors member with Dress for Success Ottawa and Planned Parenthood Ottawa. Social media is becoming a very powerful information sharing tool, especially in this day and age. With this webinar, Kate's going to help outline some basic approaches for us to maintain our social media presence, as well as how to grow our audience and our content. And she's going to be giving us some ideas on how we can use social media to market ourselves and our work to the right audiences, which can include anything from research collaborators or future employers. So without further ado, Kate, take it away.
Thank you so much, John, and thank you to everyone on the line today. I'm really excited to be sharing some social media tips for an audience who might not be as familiar as my peers with social media. So looking forward to being able to help you out. I hope that you get some, good tactics that you can go away and apply right after this webinar. And of course, you'll see that I'm not hard to find online. So please don't ever hesitate to send me an email or tweet me, and I'm totally happy to help anyone navigate social media. So we're gonna get started. So as everyone said, my name is Kate. Up until recently, I was a consultant. As of September 3rd, I joined the Export Development Canada team, and I'll be working with actually specifically internal communication. So I'm looking forward to focusing on change management, employee engagement, but I will miss a little bit of my social media, media relations and whatnot. So just started that. I wanted to do something a little bit different right off the bat and actually dedicate this webinar. This is completely just a coincidence. I don't think Chelsea knew this when she emailed me asking me to do a webinar, but I've actually been touched by Transplant. My mom, who you can see on the very right, she donated her kidney to her sister, my Aunt Maureen. And that was done about, I think, around 1997. I was in high school. Social media didn't exist. Transplantation was still in its infancy, and I remember a lot of difficulties and a very long process for my mom to be able to give her sister that gift. And I just wanted to give this dedication so that, A, I thank you for all the work that you're doing, because the work that you're doing truly is giving the gift of life. My aunt passed away in 2013, but we got an extra 15 years of life and love with my godmother thanks to that transplant. And so I made sure to include a picture of my mom because she did all the hard work. But really, I just wanted to dedicate it to my Aunt Maureen and say thank you to all of you for promoting and raising the awareness of transplantation and giving people life. So thank you.
Kate, just a side point, we can only see your thumbnails on the side. We can't see your full screen. So if you can go into presentation mode, or I think maybe something may have frozen.
Okay, sorry about that. We'll just get that sorted. What about now?
No, I'm still seeing your thumbnails on the side on the left.
Okay. I'm just going to stop sharing and then maybe restart sharing, and maybe that'll help.
Yeah,
Okay.
should help, yeah.
Apologies for the delay.
No worries, technology.
Okay. What about now?
Now we see it, yeah. We see I'm not an expert in social media. Yeah,
okay, so
perfect.
just to make sure, here again, here's a picture of my Aunt Maureen, my godmother, myself and my mom. And so it's my Aunt Maureen who got my mom's kitty, so just wanted to do a shout out to her and to all of you for engaging and driving transplantation forward. So much appreciated. So back on track. Might shock you to hear me admit this, but I'm not an expert in social media. I'm an expert in helping people figure out what they want to say, to who and how, and to what end. So I can't remember one single course that I've taken at high school or university or college that explored social media, not one. But that's okay, because the moment you print a textbook on social media, you're out of date. It's a highly user-driven and constantly evolving medium. The hashtag, for example, which I know that you talked a lot about on the previous webinar, and I'm going to cover today as well. The hashtag wasn't actually invented by Twitter. A Twitter user suggested the idea as a way to group conversations together. Twitter people originally rejected the idea, saying that it was only for nerds, would never catch on. And we all know how that worked out today. Hashtag is eponymous, and it's extended its reach way offline as well. So as a professional communicator operating in a very modern world, I ensure I stay current with the mechanisms of my tools, such as social media, so Facebook and Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. But I take what I know about being a good communicator and I marry that with the capabilities and limitations of certain channels. Social media. Chris Messina was the inventor of the hashtag. He doesn't work for Twitter. Twitter didn't invent it. It was Chris. Social media is a reflection of the people who use it and the context in which they're found. So the open and very accessible nature of social media means that how it's used is really driven by the people who are using it. In turn, this can be incredibly intimidating to people who don't use social media, who aren't online every day, all day like I am by virtue of my job. They're truly microcosms, though, of our neighborhoods, of our societies. So in the way that, just as we do in the real world, where we try to find little pockets of neighborhoods or people or interests or groups that we can socialize and exchange knowledge and information and experiences with, that's very much similar to social media. So today, I'm going to talk mostly about building your portfolio, and so you're cultivating your online presence, getting followers, finding people to follow, and then we'll actually do some more hands-on, as much as I can be on a webinar, but I'll go through some of the sites exactly and just give you a bit of a tour to hopefully familiarize and enhance your comfort level. So first, a little bit about social media and the science community. So research shows that the science community follows social media because it facilitates the exchange of knowledge within the community. It's a way of engaging and informing publics, and it can contribute to improved science literacy by increasing the access of research, of knowledge. With Twitter, I'm going to be focusing mostly on Twitter today, but we will go into other areas as well. I know it was covered extensively previously as well, so I'm trying not to duplicate, and if I do duplicate, it's because it's an important point. So a little bit about Twitter. You'll see, 319 million active monthly users. It's a tool that's very easy to grow your networks because it's so open, and so you're choosing to follow people, people are following you back. It's not like a friend request on Facebook where someone has to give permission. You can follow someone without anyone following you back, and vice versa. The science community or researchers, educators primarily use it to connect with others in their field and easily share information, as well as participate remotely in conferences. Another topic that was covered extensively last week, whether you're participating remotely or even at the conference. It's a way of taking extra conversations out of the conference room. Some of the barriers to things like Twitter really are just lack of familiarity, where to get started, and it is, of course, by many so perceived as a waste of time for people who don't understand all of its capabilities. Some of the benefits that researchers in the science community have cited is the size and the diversity of potential audiences, the accessibility of both the platform. It's web-based. You can download an app on your phone as well, but it's not necessary. Obviously, the networking collaboration opportunities, the ability to reach out and connect with people who you don't know, and then the ease of communicating snippets. Even I, when I'm doing something in LinkedIn, I was like, that empty box is so daunting because you have to write a whole paragraph. Well, at least with Twitter, you know, you're limited to 280 characters, so brevity is key. So sometimes the ability to share out information just quickly, that's another benefit that people have cited. I'm going to talk a little bit about LinkedIn today too. I'm not going to talk about it in the same way as Twitter, because when you build your LinkedIn profile, you're essentially calling up your resume. And then it's really the interaction of how you use LinkedIn, and that's very similar, so we'll cover that. But LinkedIn really has developed from an online job portal to a professional networking. So obviously job searchers, job recruiters, that's obviously still a huge part of their existence, but it really has become a network of sharing information. So it's now like Facebook, but Facebook at work. So 10 million active job postings, information on 9 million different companies, 3 million users share content on it weekly, and people have about 400 average connections per user. Facebook, the most popular platform at the moment, 1.23 billion daily active users. That's nearly a quarter of the world's population. 79% of adults who are online, so anyone who has a computer or access to internet, 79% of those adults have Facebook. It's insane how large this is, especially when it started as an American system, really for university students, and it has just exploded. And it really, in many ways, has left an indelible mark on our society for sure. Mostly used for personal rather than business, but obviously businesses and companies, organizations have a presence on Facebook, but the primary use of it would be individuals for personal use. Lots of people follow interesting pages, keep connected to friends and family. Everyone's familiar. Instagram. So we are going to cover a little bit of Instagram, as there was some interest. It is not as pervasive as Facebook, but it's one of the fastest growing platforms. So right now, 72%, so 3/4 of teenagers are on Instagram, compared to 35% of adults. It's a very visual-driven platform, so all you're really consuming mostly is video and photo. Unlike Twitter and Facebook, where it's very easy to link to something externally, it's much more cumbersome on Instagram. So it's really the immediacy. So what can you send to them immediately, and not necessarily take them from the website. Users like 4.2 billion posts every day. So I'm going to dig right into the heart of social media, and we're going to start talking about your individual portfolios and how to really build that. Especially when I'm hiring or looking at team members for communications and marketing, to me, this is worse than not having a presence online, is to have a blank presence. If you're going to put some effort into attracting new followers, making new connections, which is perhaps what you're starting to do today or now is to figure out, okay, I'm going to log on and I'm going to get started. What you really want to do is, while you're attracting people, you want to make sure that there's something for them to see when they get there. And so this is what we're going to talk about, building your persona so that when you start reaching out to those connections, they're not left with what you see on the screen right now. I recently, as I mentioned, switched jobs, and I curated my social media feed for well over a month, from like the application to the interview process. So that meant that I showed a little bit of personality, I shared some articles that looked very smart, and I definitely kept some tweets to myself. But that's what I did, is knowing that there was a potential for other people, so employers or perhaps my soon-to-be manager, they might be checking me out online, and so I wanted to make sure that what they saw when they found was someone who was appealing. So that's why, I would sprinkle my feed with things about internal comms, and I definitely didn't tweet about politics as much, but I really curated that feed to act like a first impression, knowing that that might very well be the first thing that they see about me in lieu of an interview. Now, this is where people can sometimes get tripped up when they're starting, because it is so vast. As we mentioned before, it's like, how do I even start? Where do I begin? What do I have to say? And so I like this quote, and it follows me a lot in communications, that, you're trying to be meaningful to someone or something. And so think about who your someone is. You can't be meaningful to everyone, so who is that someone, and then how are you going to show that meaning to them? This is why it's important to have a clear idea of what you're actually looking to get out of social media and what you have to offer others. So why do I want to be on social media? And so ask yourself as a researcher, why do I want to be on social media? Am I looking for new studies? Am I looking to attract study participants? There could be a myriad of different ways, and you could have many different reasons. But ask yourself, why do I want to be on social media? What am I about? So what do I have to offer? What's going on in my day? Am I producing research reports? Am I working at a journal? Am I an educator? What kind of content is coming from just being who I am that I'm going to be able to share? What are my interests? What's that personality that you want to show? And you could show as little or as much personality as you want online, but that's also a way to sort of just get conversations going. And then what do I have to offer others? So where do we start on how to do social media and where to get started? What do I have to say? Why would anyone care about what I have to say? Some will say that social media is just a bunch of people posting pictures about their breakfast or yelling at an airline, which, to be fair, is not entirely untrue. But once you have a sense of what you want from social media and what you have to offer, you'll be able to find those communities, those pockets I talked about. And just as you want to read about what your peers are doing, they do too want to know what you have to say as well. So I look at your professional, so updates, opportunities related to your work. What are you working on? What are the projects that are exciting you? Are there challenges that are kind of stumping you and that maybe you can just put out a question into the Twitter ether and you might actually get some feedback back? News from openings with your employer or related organizations, research grants, calls for abstracts. All of those things are sharing, and those are actions that people can take as a result of you posting on social media. Sharing content from someone else, and whether you add your comment or not, but sharing that and helping amplify what others are doing by sharing their articles. News items are a really quick and easy one. Every media outlet is on Twitter. And one of my tips that I like to give out is to set up a Google News alert for yourself. So setting up any alerts for yourself on certain topics, perhaps key persons even, setting those up, and those will alert you to new news stories that you can there share. And so it's not your content, but that's a way of keeping your feed populated and showing what you're interested in and hopefully engaging others as well. So again, I just want to reiterate, really, like, your social portfolio is who you are, why are you on social media, what are you trying to get out of it, why do you want someone to follow you, what are your interests, what do you think of something. That's all stuff that you can answer now, but that's content for your social feed. Audience cultivation. So I used the word cultivation very deliberately because it is a process. It is an active process that we need to do. So too many people are focused on the numbers, you know, quantity over quality, especially in the influencer area where people are making ridiculous amounts of money to post about weight loss teas and shakes. It's really the influencer culture really has, I think, skewed some people's view of social media and the authenticity of it. But whether you have 50 followers or 50,000 followers, cultivation denotes the process, the effort and the care that you take to building a meaningful audience that you're going to be engaged with and that they're going to engage back with you as well. So when I think of media, especially in these days, it kind of brings to mind just being bombarded with news and videos. Like, I don't know about any of you, and it might just because of what I do, but sometimes I feel like I'm on content overload where I've just had so much stuff thrown at me. But when you put social media in front of it, that's when you really start to think about the participant and the engagement and the reaction and the sharing and the exchanging of knowledge. If there are any instructors listening today, I want you to imagine teaching your class, and if throughout your lecture you could see little thumbs up appearing after a great point, or having one of your slides retweeted right away. Social media offers that immediate engagement and participation. So your priority with social media should extend far beyond just disseminating. Like the news networks who are just constantly pushing out content after content, set your sights on exchange. So not just you always pushing out information, but also interacting with the people who follow you, asking their opinions, sending out polls, sharing images and video. Try to think about it that way. It's not dissemination and just pushing out, but think about the social in social media. In social media, I'll just go over a couple of tactics, what social media engagement is and how it's manifested. And so there could be a dialogue, so whether you're on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Facebook, or Instagram, there's through comments, you're chatting back and forth with someone, likes and shares. So like is, just the click of the heart or the different emojis that they've added, so you're reacting to something. You're sharing, so when you click share, repost, or retweet, you're taking someone's content and you're putting it on your feed. Feedback, clicks, comments, all those are different ways that while we're in the online world, we are engaging with the content that people have shared. And then at the bottom, I like to include tweet others the way you want to be tweeted. And so part of that is a little nod to it's nice to be polite and civil, but also the more that you're tweeting how you want to be tweeted with, the more others will tweet you that way, if that makes sense as well. So for example, every time you follow someone, they might see that they have a new follower, depending on how many they have and how much they keep on top of it. but they see when you follow them. They see when you retweet or comment on their stories. And then that prompts people to also engage back with you, either to follow you back, to retweet or like your response. And so think about it very much as that two-way. If you want to interact and be engaged with on Twitter, then that's what you have to do yourself too. So you'll see some lovely tweets here, and I just wanted to show you a few examples of what engaging posts really look like. So things that are media rich, so images, video, GIFs, those get attention. Like we said, there's so much content coming out these days. How is it that yours is going to get noticed among all the others? Well, these are some of the ways. So these images of people that, you know, stop you in the tracks, you want to know more. Who are these people? Concise, so obviously brevity. So if you understand how people are reading Twitter, you know, scanning on their phones or their browsers, really just skimming, sometimes it's very easy to miss. So by making it concise, media rich, and engaging, you can hopefully get people to stop in their news feed and read what you've put. Questions and polls. You'll see one of the tweets that I've copied at the bottom. That's a poll that's actually run through the Twitter, and so you post in on all your options, and those are buttons that people click and tallies the votes for you. That's a way. That's a call to action of sorts. That's a way of prompting someone to engage with you on what you've put out. Relevant and timely. So obviously reacting to things as they happen. Digestible, easy, is something that, you know, probably a lot of the science and research community might find hard about Twitter, is that the brevity, you know, the small words, lots of acronyms or abbreviations, but you really need to, you have, you know, like a nanosecond of someone's attention that they need to be able to digest a lot of information. Actions, so register now, read this paper, download this. A call to action is one way that you're prompting people to engage with you. And then as well, the infamous hashtag that we've talked about, tags as well, so tagging other organizations, which again is going to prompt them to see that you tagged them, which will hopefully prompt them to share it, et cetera, and it goes on and on. So I wanted to just actually go into the platforms a little bit and show you around and get you comfortable. So I'm going to exit out of my presentation now. So can everyone see this my Twitter page now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so this is the Twitter browser rather than the app on the phone, and I'll just show you a few core pieces. One good idea of when you first get started out is what I call follow the followers. So you can go onto anyone's page and see who else is following them, and that'll give you a great idea of who you might want to start following as well. So you can click on any person and follow them, and then you can again see who's following them, who are they following, and that's one way of populating your own feeds. Hashtags you've covered, but I just want to reinforce. So you can click on the hashtag. Again, you see what's also being said, but it's also a really great way to find interesting people, again, to follow, because you see that they're tweeting about something that's interesting to you. Just a quick thing, because this is somewhat new, but Twitter did obviously recently up their character count from 140 to 280. So just wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of that. And again, if you use a web link, the link does not count towards your count. It's just words and hashtags. The other thing is that you can do multiple tweets, and that's how you get the threads. So you can add more, and so you'll probably see a lot of threads as well. That's that plus button right here. So just really quickly, this is the Twitter. This is my whole news feed. This isn't organized in any way. We'll go into organizing news feeds a little bit later. But just to show you a couple things over in the right here, this is all the trending hashtags that are in Canada. This is my news feed here. When you tweet, this is where you write it. You put links directly into it. Add a photo. Add a GIF, everyone knows that. Here's the poll that we were talking about. So you can add a poll, you ask your question, you add in your options, you specify how long you want the poll to run, and then you tweet it out. And that's another way to get people engaging with you on Twitter. If you go to someone else's tweet, just quickly, this is someone's tweet. The speech bubble is where I would reply to it. The arrows here are the retweet, and you can retweet, do a straight retweet, and it'll post right away. Or you can retweet a comment if you wanted to add something of yourself in there. Your heart is your like, and I think that's probably the most that you need to know. That's sort of the mechanics of tweeting. But I do want to go into a tool that I really like to use called TweetDeck. And as I mentioned before about the crowdsourcing, if you will, TweetDeck was a third-party application, but it's now actually brought within Twitter. And so you don't need to create a separate account. Whatever your Twitter login is, you can go to tweetdeck.twitter.com and use your same login information. This is the browser version. You can download a desktop version as well. But I like TweetDeck because it helps organize. So when we talk about like the sheer volume of all that content going out and where you start and how do I make sure that I'm not just seeing, you know, Donald Trump and what people have for breakfast, is I can use an organizational tool to help me sort of sift through that content. So I'm seeing TweetDeck right now, LinkedIn as myself, and I have some columns set up that I'll just quickly take you through because I find it's very helpful for people when they're starting Twitter. So this first column here is just the straight news feed, so everything's coming in. This second tweet here is notifications, so people have mentioned me, they started following me, they tweeted at me. This is all here. If I move over a little bit, this is where it gets interesting. I have created a list, and I'll get to that in a minute, but I've created different lists. So this column here, writers and reporters, is populated by users who I've added to my own list. So these are all writers and reporters, so I'm seeing all their tweets. This column here is I was searching for the hashtag Canadian Health or Canadian Poli or Ottawa News. And so these are populated by anyone using that hashtag at the moment, so I can see the latest. And I'm going to show you a quick one of how to add stuff. So if you're in TweetDeck and you just add a column, this brings up all the different columns, search columns that you could do. So I'm going to go into trending. So that's a new one, and that brings up all the different trends that are going on. But I could also, I want to see every time the network tweets. I can add them. So just sorry about that.
You're okay. It's CNTRP. Sorry.
Oh,
yeah, they didn't migrate the username. No, you're good.
So I've put in this search form, and you can find any user like that. So I'm going to add a column. I'm going to add a user, and this is where I search for it. Here we go. And I'm going to add a column to my TweetDeck, and that's added. And so now I can see the CNTRP. So if I'm worried about missing something, or perhaps I'm following along on a conference, I can add these columns, and then that way I don't have to sort through all the other noise to be able to see what they're tweeting. And then I'm going to show you a quick way to make a list. So I'm going to my profile, and I'm going to go to lists. And these are the lists that I've already created. And here I am, I'm going to start a new one. And it's going to be Transplant Research. I can put in a description or not. I can make this private or not, so it could just be just viewed to me. Or if people are on your profile and they click on their list, they can see what list you've created as well. So it could be, I'm going to add the network now, but you can add anyone that you want to. And so done. That's going to create a list. And then when I'm in my TweetDeck, I can also add, I can add that as a column now that I've created that list. So whatever list you use, and I'll show one that has a lot of population just to make sense. So I've created a list a while ago of all the news outlets I like to follow. I'm going to click on them, and I'm going to add a column. And then that way, I now have a column of all the different news outlets that I follow. And so TweetDeck and lists, hashtags, those are ways that can help you muddle through the noise and really get to the heart of what you're looking for. And you can use that again using hashtags, following different users. But it really is, you have to put work into it. I can't get around that for you. But it really is just a little bit of work, and then it's much more beneficial because you're going to see the content that's most meaningful to you. Now I want to talk a little bit quickly about Instagram, and I have to go back into my presentation for this because Instagram, although they have a web platform in that you can browse Instagram in your web browser, you can't really post. Well, you can't at all post. So when you're on the Instagram browser, you're just seeing the pictures of people you're following, and you can comment, but you can't actually add anything. So what I did is I took some screenshots from my mobile version just to give you a quick tour. Okay. So on the very left picture is your home screen for Instagram. And I've circled a few important buttons. So the one in the middle at the bottom with the plus sign, that's how you start a new post. The heart to the right is all your notifications. So when people have liked you or commented or started following you, that's where you'll see that. The search button to the left, very much like Twitter, we have hashtags. You can search by users. That's how you find them. Up in the top right, where you see the number 2 and the arrow, that's your DMs or your private messages, very similar again to Twitter. In the second screen, so now imagine I've clicked on the plus sign at the bottom and I want to add a new post. That's the second screen from the left, and it'll bring up the library of images that you have. And so on my Instagram, I take a lot of pictures of books that I'm reading, and I do quick reviews so that people can get ideas of what they should read next. So that's me sharing a picture of my book. On the third screen, you're probably familiar with all the fun filters that Instagram has. So that's where you see that, and you can edit and make your picture look a lot better than it originally did. And then that last one is where you actually write the post. And so again, like Twitter, like Facebook, it's text. You can tag people using the @ symbol. You can you can use hashtags. Instagram, you can post much more text than Twitter. There is an eventual limit, although I don't know it off the top of my head, but you won't ever reach it. One thing to mention again is that while you can insert a link into your text comment, it's not hyperlinked. People can't actually click on it. So that's why you'll see a lot link in bio, because you can put hyperlinked links in your bio. But that's a quick overview of Instagram. The function itself works a lot like Facebook and Twitter, where people are posting and you're interacting. I quickly wanted to go over LinkedIn groups today, because that's another way of really upping that engagement, of finding that neighborhood or that community where you're going to be able to either make a presence for yourself or actually just get content from other people as well. And so LinkedIn groups, there's so many groups. They're really easy to search. Every group now you have to request to join. And then some are extra private, where you can't find them in the search, or you can only access them if someone sends you a link. But for the most part, really easy to find, and you request to join. And I'm going to give a quick tour. So with LinkedIn, so this is a group that I'm a member of. So International Association of Business Communicators, I've joined the group. So once you've joined a group and you're let in, what you'll see here is, here are all the other members. So you can see all, click on them, look at people who you might want to connect. You can invite other people to join. These are the description of the group, as well as who administers the group. Very much looks like Facebook, in that you can start conversations, post images, videos, but you're essentially consuming content just as you would on Facebook. What I'll do is I'll show you a quick search. So Transplant. So I'm going to search for transplant research, and when you search it, you can filter it just to the groups, so not just people and whatnot, but you can just search for groups. And then these are all the groups that come up. You can find one that you like, you request to join, and then once you're in that group, it's like a Facebook group essentially for like-minded individuals, and it's a great way to share, find new audiences, so expanding your reach beyond your typical networks. So LinkedIn groups is something I would definitely recommend. And because I know my audience and I know what they want, I also want to cover a little bit about evaluation, because the evaluation tools are much more accessible and easy to use these days, so that even on an individual level, even with those just 50 followers, you can sort of see how your content is going over. So if you can't manage what you don't measure, quote I say with much regularity. So I'm going to show you quickly the Twitter analytics and how you can see how your post is doing. So I'm pulling up a post right now. I recently posted when I got my new job. And so you go to your post and you'll see these bars, this little bar graph, and you can view your tweet activity. When you click on it, Twitter automatically brings up all the metrics associated with that. So it'll give you an approximate value of how many times people saw this in their news feed. How many times did someone click on it to see the media I shared? In this case, it was just a GIF. Total engagement, so that's clicking on the tweet, liking it, commenting, retweeting it. This gives you that indication. So you can actually get a sense, even from one tweet, how people found you, what they did with the tweet, and whatnot. And so again, that's just going to the tweet and clicking that bar graph. And if you go to the Twitter analytics, you can get a month-by-month overview of like how your tweets are doing, how many new followers you got. And so those are new tools that are being rolled out, and they're accessible to pretty much everyone now. It's not just developers or large companies or people who want to pay for that. That information is available to you there. LinkedIn activity, you can still see a little bit. It's not as detailed, but you can get a sense of how many people have viewed your post, who's engaging with it, what's the reach of it, and you'll see in each of the bottom of your posts now, you'll see how many people viewed your post. So I wanted to make sure and get that evaluation in because it is important, and it'll give you a good sense of what's working and what you need to continue more of as you're putting out content. So I'm just going to go back to my presentation. Any questions?